Welcome to Agency Insider, the podcast that takes you behind the digital marketing world. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal, CEO of Page Traffic. Each week, I'll be joined by renowned guests, speakers, industry experts, successful marketers, and digital pioneers who will share their insights, strategies, and stories. Let's get started and unlock the secret to thriving in this ever-evolving industry. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Jonathan Boshoff, founder of the AI SEO Academy. Jonathan is a leading expert in AI SEO. Welcome to the Agency Insider, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start. So Jonathan, can you share with us how you got started in the field of SEO back in 2012?
Yeah, so I got started making WordPress websites as a freelancer.
Okay.
And people would ask me after making a website, how do I get traffic? How do I get leads? So I started learning SEO as a way to help people do that, small businesses mostly.
Okay. And so what were some of the initial challenges you faced at the beginning of your career when you moved from making WordPress websites to SEO?
Yeah, the hard part for me was just learning. Like there was so much to learn with SEO. And the funny thing is back then, I didn't know the difference between like black hat tactics that you shouldn't do and white hat tactics that are good to do. I didn't know about like algorithm updates and penalties and things like that. So the people I was learning from on YouTube and stuff were actually like teaching black hat SEO practices. And that's how I thought SEO worked. So I was just trying to do whatever people on YouTube and stuff were telling me to do. And I eventually caught on and realized that there's like good things and bad things. But that was my challenge at first, was kind of like.
Okay, so hope no site get penalized that time.
Yeah, thankfully I didn't manage to get any sites penalized.
All right.
I didn't know any better back then.
Okay. So that was 2012, and now, so of course, I think AI mainly came around 2021 mainly, or 2020. So what inspired you to combine AI with SEO, and what you've been doing? I mean, since 2012, you were just practicing SEO up till the AI?
Yeah, so my career progressed and I ended up, working at agencies and in-house roles as an SEO specialist.
Okay.
And around 2021, when like OpenAI was starting to get big with ChatGPT, I was a beta tester because when I saw it, I was thinking this is definitely going to have like SEO applications.
Right.
I think that was before like ChatGPT came out.
Okay.
And as soon as ChatGPT came out, I started playing around with it and, like starting to prompt it to write title tags and meta descriptions.
Right.
I realized that there's tons of like SEO applications for just ChatGPT itself.
Okay.
And then I realized that ChatGPT could write code, and that was like another step for me. So I started using ChatGPT to make like little Python scripts and web apps that would do like SEO automations.
Okay. So for my listeners, so did you knew Python beforehand, or you learned that on the job?
Yeah, I learned it on the go.
Okay.
Any Python skill I have, I've learned mostly from ChatGPT and trying out other people's scripts.
All right.
I'm not really a Python developer,
Okay.
but I can prompt decently enough to build something simple.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your prompts, and yes, they are simple, but they do magic when you use them. Right. Yes. So of course, you were one of the early adopters using ChatGPT and AI for the SEO. Now, how has AI changed the landscape of SEO in these recent years?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the thing that I thought would immediately happen was everybody would make tons and tons of AI generated content. And my prediction was that it would work for a while and then kind of stop working quickly as Google caught on. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. Like we saw a lot of people skyrocket their traffic,
Yeah.
publishing AI content. And then Google quickly came out with some sort of way to stop that in its tracks. And we saw a lot of sites crash and burn afterwards. So I kind of like foresaw that happening because I know just like marketers are going to take advantage of anything they can get their hands on.
Right.
So I focused the majority of the things that I worked on to be around like quality and just anything outside of SEO that isn't like content generation, because that's what most people think of when they think of AI and SEO.
Yes.
They think making spammy content. So I've made tools for like internal linking, checking against quality rater guidelines like EEAT, all kinds of weird stuff.
Okay.
So I enjoy like focusing on the other 90% of what you can use AI for.
Okay. So that's really cool. And yes, you are right. I mean, I think half of the industry still thinks AI is mainly for SEO content. Yes, I've seen that myself. Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the impact of Google March 2024 update. You also mentioned that there were a lot of corrections which Google did. So we both know Google March 2024 update significantly impacted AI-based content sites. So can you share your insight on what changes Google implemented and why AI-generated content was heavily targeted?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the really hard part, and people tend to oversimplify it, is they just go, oh, AI content is now bad, and we should use AI content detectors and make sure that there's no detection of AI,
Right.
which isn't really the right way to look at it. The only thing that Google can focus on is content quality. And the important consideration there is Google isn't like some sentient AI that reads your page and goes, I think this is good quality. I think this is bad quality.
Right.
Like it's an algorithm, it's running code, it's doing like computational math. Like at the end of the day, everything is broken up into some sort of really complex calculation.
Right.
So while we think of high quality content, that might mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But I tend to focus on where it's measurable for content quality.
Okay.
For example, like it's pretty easy to tell if a page has real firsthand experience or if they're just making stuff up. It's pretty easy to tell if a page has some level of expertise going on or if it's just kind of regurgitating best practices that are well known.
Right.
So those are kind of like little areas where content quality can come into play.
Right.
But more obviously would be like time on page and bounce rate. Like that's a telltale sign if you've generated AI content and you can't keep people on the page for more than 10 seconds or so because it's just so bad, people are going to leave and they're going to go to a page that can hold their attention. So whether it's made with AI or not, it's all about like figuring out what those quality metrics will be and how to kind of align better with them.
Okay. So the pages which has high dwell time or retention were the pages which were not got hit, but mainly the pages which were AI generated tends to have low quality and higher bounce rate is what you think this update got hit those websites, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the pages that got hit, they have low quality, like there's no experience or expertise going on. It's all best practices.
Right.
People aren't sticking around on the page. People are bouncing. That's pretty easy to calculate from like a grand scale Google algorithm perspective.
Right.
And then there's also like those helpful content updates, which are a site-wide score.
Right.
So if Google detects that you have so many pages that are doing that with like the low scores, bad quality, bad clicks, then that's going to affect your whole site. And that's why a lot of websites saw really big site-wide declines because they made so many bad pages and they like tanked their site quality scores.
Yeah, I agree with that. The helpful content update for my listeners came in September 2023. And I believe we are yet to see recovery of any websites, right? Yes.
Yeah,
Though
that's a
Google said
vicious
they're gonna,
update.
Yeah, Google said they're gonna roll out another update very shortly. Nice. Let's see. Right. So,
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
right. So how can, I mean, of course, there are content creator and they are AI-based content creators. We all use AI some places to generate some sort of content, maybe with a different prompt. I mean, let's be frank. So how can AI-based content creator adapt to these new Google algorithm to ensure their content remains compliant and rank well?
Yeah, great question. And it's very scalable, like there's no just best practices you can follow, but probably the best thing you can do for each page is to look at who's outranking you, what topics they're covering, and then all of the intricate details in between, like are they using experts who actually have real experience and expertise? Are they using statistics, quotes? What other types of media are on that page? Like, are there graphics? Are there screenshots or videos? So the best thing you can do is kind of look at those elements and then start to find similarities, because depending on the type of content you're working on, you might notice that like this certain cluster of content, the pieces that are outranking it, they're mostly just covering other topics. And then you might find for a different cluster, the pieces that are outranking yours all have like screenshots or graphics or something like that. So you got to kind of just decode what's working better than yours.
Okay. And all right. So I think the website which got penalized, do they have any hope of coming back, or what do you think?
Yeah, it is tough because of those like site-wide helpful content updates.
Right.
I think it is possible to recover. There's not a lot of people who have shared a helpful content recovery, like on LinkedIn or anywhere,
Right.
where they've shown my site got tanked all the way down and now we've made it all the way back up.
Right.
And it's a huge pain point for tons of websites, and people are talking to Google about it, saying like, why did you kill our website? And Google's being pretty indifferent about it. I do think it's possible. Like, it wouldn't make sense to just go start new websites or migrate everything over to like new domains and kind of start fresh.
Right.
But also think it's something that's not going to happen overnight, because these like larger helpful content updates, they take months of data into consideration. So even if you could snap your fingers and all of your content was 10 times better than it was yesterday, it would still take months to see the improvement from that.
Right. Because I think there are quite a few those updates comes in a year, maybe 2 or 3 at max, right?
Yeah, you're fighting a lot of historical data.
Okay. Now, of course, I mentioned you have an AI SEO Academy. That's, I mean, not too common to have those academies. So, can you tell us more about the AI SEO Academy and what actually motivated you to start it?
Yeah, that is a good question. So I started it just because I wanted to kind of collect people who had the same interests as me, because not a lot of people are making tools that are AI focused. There's a lot of people who are still like doing Chat GPT and stuff. So I'm basically just like a super early adopter, and I wanted to have something ready for the next stage, because my theory was that people are going to go through the same stages as me, where they're going to start on like ChatGPT, and then they're going to start looking for other tools and solutions. So I started like building the kind of like courses and guides and tools that people would go to next for SEO.
Okay. So when did you started this academy?
Almost a year ago now. I think it's been like 11 or 10 months.
Okay. And how does this work? So people, is it a paid academy, or I mean, what are some of the key topics and skill that your courses in SEO Academy, AI SEO Academy covers?
Yeah, so it's free to join. I did charge for it at one point. It was $10 a month a while ago, but I made it free recently, just because I wanted it to grow faster. But there's all kinds of stuff in there. Like basically every week or so, I make a new tool, and then I'll make a walkthrough video of how to use the tool, why it's important, all the use cases
Okay.
for it, results you can get using the tool. And then I've categorized them based on like kind of what you're doing overall. Like, are you planning content? Are you improving content? Are you doing link building? So that's kind of how I'm categorizing everything.
Okay. So, so how is it going? I mean, the academy?
Yeah, it's going good. It's currently pretty small. There's only like, I think 560 people in there right now.
Okay.
It's growing a lot faster since I made the group free.
Okay.
I do get some spammers, so I have to like kick them out. But I think
Right.
overall it's worth it just to keep it like free and open because
Okay.
it's growing quickly now.
Okay. Now, you have generated, of course, you have created a lot of AI-powered tools and applications. So, my question is, what are some of the AI-powered applications and tools you have developed for SEO? I mean, can you help us name some? Maybe we can put a link and people can try.
Yeah, sure. So one of the ones that did really well, and it wasn't like a hosted tool or anything, it's actually just a Python script,
Okay.
but it was an internal linking automation tool.
Okay.
So that there's a script in there that'll show you how to use the Google search API to find internal linking opportunities at scale. And it's
Oh,
pretty easy to run. Like you just input keywords and the URL and it finds it for you.
okay.
And I've built several of these like quality checking tools,
Okay.
but multiple EEAT checkers that I've built. So like Google Quality Rater Guidelines checkers, helpful
Okay.
content checkers,
Okay.
review update checkers. So that was a whole like the Google reviews update for
Okay.
affiliate review type content. Has a different set of guidelines, and I have a different tool that looks at that specifically.
Okay.
So those are probably the easiest to start with because you can just pop in a URL and it'll tell you like which guidelines you're meeting and which guidelines you're not meeting.
Okay. So these tools does somebody needs Python to know this? How can somebody run them?
Yeah, some of them do use Python, but you don't have to like copy paste the script and learn how to figure all that stuff out. I host those ones on Streamlit, which is just like a code sharing platform. So it
Okay.
has a bit of like a simple user interface, so you can just
Okay.
like try stuff out.
Okay.
And then I host another set of tools on a platform called Moonlit. And that one does cost, there was a fee with that one, but you get, I think it's 500 free credits if you make an account.
I
So you can
have,
do quite a
to
bit.
be honest, I've tried some of those of yours. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so Moonlit's great. It's like a no-code builder. Like you can
Right.
drag and drop and just move stuff around. And then
Okay.
you can share apps, and it's usually the same thing, just like a URL or a couple inputs. And then you hit run, and it gives you your report or whatever.
Okay. And these all require, I guess, ChatGPT API.
If you're using the Python scripts, yes, you need an API, and you just like copy in your API key.
Okay.
If you're using Moonlit, you just need like an account, and it uses like Moonlit's APIs.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So have you used any tools or have you created any tools to automate some of the SEO tasks besides just one you mentioned about internal linking?
Yeah, I've created a bunch. I've done creating topical maps, keyword research, content cannibalization, finding guest post opportunities, all kinds of stuff. Pretty
Okay.
much like title tags, meta descriptions, any like really time consuming task I've automated,
Okay.
schema creation, all
Oh,
kinds of
okay.
things.
Is there anything left?
There's a couple left. Like I haven't done alt text, image alt text yet. I
Okay.
could.
Okay.
It's just one of those things I haven't got around to yet. And now that we have the models, like before the solution would have been a little more complicated, but
Right.
GPT 4.0 can process images, so it'd be pretty easy to do that one now.
Okay. So besides ChatGPT, are your AI powered tools based on any other like Claude or something, any other LLM models?
Yeah, so I've used Claude, Perplexity, Gemini,
Okay.
Llama.
Okay.
Cool thing about Moonlit is you can just swap out the chat models. So
Okay.
if you don't like your output with GPT-4, It's
Mhm.
just like a drag and drop thing, and you just switch it to Gemini or Claude or
Oh,
Perplexity,
that's cool.
and it'll just swap the model out and run the same prompt and the same process, just with a slightly different model.
Okay. So in your experience, which one of these LLM models fare best while doing these automated tasks or repeatable tasks?
Yeah, for content generation, I find that Claude, especially the new one, 3.5,
Mm.
does way better at generating like content that people will enjoy reading versus
Okay.
GPT-4.
Okay.
And for research is pretty new with the Perplexity model. It can browse the web. So the same thing you could get on perplexity.ai, you can run that as a chat model and it'll browse the web and find information for you
Right.
just within like a tool
Okay.
that you're building.
And for the other task besides content, like the topical maps and all those topical authority maps?
Yeah, for tasks outside of content generation, I tend to just use GPT-4, sometimes even 3.5 if the task is really simple. I
Okay.
try to be kind of like cost effective. Like if it doesn't need a complex chat model, I can just use something simple and like do it quickly and scalably at a low cost. Versus if it needs to make like really high quality content, then I'll use like Claude 3.5.
Okay. Okay. And you've been, of course, working for I think more than a decade in SEO for clients as well. So what strategies have you find most effective in doing a 2-3x revenue increase from organic search?
Yeah, so it's just like most SEO, it's usually a combination of lots of little things instead of one big awesome strategy.
Mhm.
But there are cases where AI can be really useful, especially for like programmatic SEO. Like if you have a template and you need to make a ton of different versions of that same template, just with slightly different content, AI can make really quick work of those kind of tasks. Same with like e-commerce, like product pages, category pages. It's really easy to do those at scale with AI.
Okay, so you have used them to help scale the revenue and the traffic 2-3x?
Yeah. Yeah. Title tags, meta descriptions,
Okay.
anything that's the thing that's different. So it's still the same work, but what AI is going to do is help you produce more outputs with
Oh,
less time, less
right,
resources. Like most SEOs or SEO teams are usually really small, just like a couple of people,
right,
whether it's at an agency or in-house.
right.
So there's always like way more work than people. And the key thing that moves the needle with SEO is like outputs. So like how many pages did you create? How many titles did you update? How many internal links did you add? So
Right.
it's all about kind of like those outputs. And AI is going to help you get more of those out the door than you would just by yourself.
Right. So are there any specific industries where you have found AI powered SEO more impactful? I mean, besides
Yeah.
e-commerce, of course.
E-commerce is probably the best use case. And the
Okay.
second use case would be like programmatic SEO, which is largely for software as a service
Okay.
websites. So they have a lot of like templates type content that you can create and scale.
And those are not the content which can get impacted by Google algorithm updates.
It depends. So like with programmatic SEO, you have opportunities to use unique data. A good example is like Ahrefs.
Okay.
So they started a programmatic kind of strategy where they're pulling in stats on all of the different websites. So you could just type up a website and Ahrefs will have a page about statistics from it. And it's
Right.
pulling those statistics in from their own database, but they're also using like AI content for the text portions of that. So it's
Okay.
still unique and useful, but it's done at scale and with AI.
Okay. Right. So now, given then the changes brought by Google update, what future trends do you foresee in the integration of AI and SEO with all these updates?
Yeah, the big one is going to be people eventually coming around with like the content components.
Okay.
Because even though those updates have kind of already slapped people making mass content, it's going to take a while for people to kind of figure out what's working, how AI can still like make an impact and be useful. Because just making like a million, like what is this keyword, and generating it on ChatGPT and publishing that as a post, that's not going to work.
Right.
People have to kind of like find the new ways to use it without hurting their websites. And that's going to take some time and research and people like publishing case studies and sharing their learnings. So it's kind of like a back to square one type situation.
Okay. So how do you think people can best leverage AI in their SEO strategies? I mean, keeping the fear after the March 2024 update that nobody wants to touch AI content with a 10-foot pole. So how can business prepare to leverage AI now for their SEO strategies?
Yeah, the best way would be to look at all the use cases outside of generating content.
Okay.
And for example, maybe you're not going to generate the whole page with AI. Maybe you're going to make the content outline or the brief with AI. Maybe you generate kind of like the boring parts of that page, but then you hand it off to like a subject matter expert who can fill in the blanks with their own insights and experiences.
Okay.
So it's kind of like creating a hybrid situation and looking at all the other use cases outside of generating content.
Okay, and what do you feel about the SGE coming into picture? Of course, Google is still testing it. So what do you feel? Where does this will fit in with AI and SGE and the marketers trying to get their website in SGE?
Yeah, that's a bit of a crazy update. And then Google rolled it out and then they rolled it back and then they change it and then they roll it out again and they roll it back. So obviously it's not as much of like a smashing hit that they want it to be, because every time they launch it to more like website or to more users, they probably are not getting the data that they're hoping to see, and then they like roll it back and they take it back and they work on it some more. So eventually we're probably going to see these AI overviews come out and be somewhat functional. And the problem is every time that it's come out, I've tried to look at it and think of like, oh, how can we get on here? In one of the earlier versions, like the titles of pages that were shared were really short. So I was suggesting that people should shorten their title tags and all sorts of things like that. But then Google takes it back and they change it. So we kind of have to wait until Google settles on a more finalized structure for SGE or AI overviews.
Right.
And then we'll be able to figure out how to play in that space.
Okay, so it's still very early to recommend anything, I mean, specific right now.
Yeah, like the last time it came out, the interesting thing about AI overviews was it wasn't entirely focused on authority and like top ranking whoever has the highest authority, because that's usually what you see in the organic results, is just like the biggest, highest authority site wins.
Right.
AI overviews was showing kind of like those little nuggets of much smaller sites that weren't just like massive authority giants. And that was really interesting to see, but then they've kind of pulled that back at the moment.
Okay. Right. Now, what AI powered tool do you recommend for optimizing content and ensuring it meet Google latest standards? I know there are Surfer SEO and host of tool, but have you experienced any of them, or do you recommend some? How is there any recommendations from you?
So for tools to optimize content, probably the best solution would just still be ChatGPT, but getting smarter with prompts and learning the kinds of prompts that you need to improve the quality of your content.
Okay.
Like with all of the tools that I've made, a lot of them have been built using like ChatGPT as the model. And I'm just doing a lot of like really crafty prompts behind the scenes to evaluate pages. So you can still do that. It doesn't matter if it's in a tool or a platform.
Right.
What's important is the prompt behind it.
Okay. Okay, and how can AI be utilized for technical SEO tasks, such as can we do site audits or performance optimization? I mean, without risking any algorithm penalties, which I, of course, believe won't be there, but how can you utilize for like site audits and performance optimization?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I've done a couple tools in that area. It's definitely more complex and complicated. Like I made one that will give you your page or your core web vitals scores for every page, and you just kind of like enter your domain and it spits
Okay.
out like the page and the core web vital scores. I
Okay.
also made one that does an audit of one web page. So not a whole website, but you enter like a URL and it gives you like a tech audit of like internal links, broken pages, broken images, low page speed, all that kind of stuff you'd look for in a tech audit.
All right.
So it is possible. It's just a little more technical and it's not really like user friendly to make technical solutions unless you kind of have that tech background, a little bit more
Right.
comfortable with programming and code and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. So all these tools which you talk about are available in your academy for for the listeners, or is there a repository where people can go and download or try these?
Yeah, they're all in there in the academy, so you can just
Okay.
join it. It's
Okay.
free. You
I'll
can check them out.
post the URL in the description once this podcast goes live. Right.
Yeah, you can also read about them on my website. So every tool I've made, I've done a little write-up for on my website. So if you don't want to join the academy, you just kind of want to check out the tools, you can go there as well.
Okay. Now, let's talk about advice for aspiring SEO professional. Of course, the SEO professionals we are, where we've seen all the ups and downs, and SEO professionals, which right now they are in a chat GPT era. And of course, for content creators who heavily rely on AI, what strategies can they employ to diversify their content creation method and reduce reliance on purely AI generated content?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the new people who are learning SEO and getting into the field, the way that it was always done before was kind of like working your way backwards, like starting at the beginning, going through the algorithm updates, learning the basics, and doing all, and like eventually making your way to like present day, where you've kind of got a little bit of background on all of the SEO history. These days, it's going to be totally different. People going into SEO have AI tools to help them. So it's going to be a totally different learning experience. And the future like SEO professionals who have started by learning AI, they're going to be so much more adept at like automating, which isn't something that was huge in the past.
Right.
But in order to make sure that like you're not just relying on AI, the best thing to do instead of starting at the beginning of like search history is to probably just work your way backwards. Like, where was SEO a few months ago? Where was SEO a year ago, 2 years ago?
Okay.
And kind of like go that way.
Okay. Okay. And what advice would you give to someone looking to specialize in AI SEO?
Best advice would be to stick around in ChatGPT.
Okay.
It's like we're still really early adopters. Not a lot of people are actually using ChatGPT on a daily basis. Like most people use it once or twice if they do use it per day. But basically, like stick around in there and learn as much as you can and get to the point where you want to start automating things and you start looking outside of ChatGPT. That's how you know that you've kind of like learned everything you can learn within ChatGPT. Once you start being like, oh, I should make a tool to automate this task. Like once you get there, that's how you know you've kind of like done your essential learning.
Okay. And how important do you think it's for SEO professionals to stay updated with the AI developments?
I think it's really important. Like a lot of people, they're kind of not paying attention to it,
Right.
and they think it might just be like a fad or something. And a lot of people are kind of like closed-minded because they've seen crappy AI generated content and
Right.
they've seen tanked websites as a result of it. And they don't want to look any further than that. They're just like, oh, this is a bad thing. I'm not going to pay attention to any of this.
Right.
That's probably not a good idea. Like even if you're against it right now today, you should still pay attention to it and learn what are the latest revelations in AI. because it's going to change quickly. Like one day GPT-5 is going to come out and it's going to be mind-blowingly better than it is today. So there might be a day when everybody changes their mind. Like if you're against it today, in the future, something might happen. And now suddenly it's going to be something that you can agree with, but you will have missed out on all of the learning in between then and now.
Right. And so out of all these AI tools which you have, I mean, which one is your favorite?
Yeah, my favorite tool is probably the competitive, I think it's called competitive EEAT analysis, because what it does, you give it 3 pages
Okay.
and your page, and it's going to tell you what those other pages did that yours didn't in terms of experience and expertise, a little bit of like authoritativeness and trustworthiness, but it's going to point out all of those elements beyond like keywords and title tags and kind of like those SEO basics. So it'll say like, this page used a quote, this page used statistics, and it'll point out exactly how pages are beating yours on all of those playing fields.
Okay, that sounds very cool. I'll definitely give it a try. And after this Google leak, of course, which happened, did you tweak your tools a bit, or did you came up with some new tools to incorporate some of those stuff?
Yeah, the Google leak was really interesting. And for me, it mostly just changed what areas to focus on. So like the big one for me was kind of like time on page. And like, because they broke it down with like click data, like good clicks and bad clicks. And that leak to me spoke about how much more important that stuff is, like making sure that pages are actually being clicked on and then people are staying on the page. That's so much more important than a lot of other elements of SEO that previously people kind of thought it was all weighted pretty much the same. The kind of my newer revelation is how much more important the click data is versus other components of SEO.
Right. So any of your tool now incorporates this somehow?
I haven't incorporated anything like directly from the update. I have like focused more on EEAT, which is, that's kind of like how you can make those improvements.
Right.
Because like at the end of the day, if you're trying to make people stay on the page, you can't do that with keywords. The only way you can do that is by making your content actually interesting in a way that somebody would want to read it and stay and stick around. So the guidance there is usually around like firsthand experience, expertise, telling a story, not just like putting a bunch of keywords on a page and trying to get like the best keyword density and things like that.
That's old school, right?
Yeah.
Right. So just out of curiosity, how many AI tools have you developed till now?
I've released a little over 30. I'd have to go check. But I've built 30. I probably have like a workshop of broken tools that I haven't released, which would probably be like 100 if I counted them. But the ones that I'm actually able to share with people is about 30.
Okay. And any big tool which you are excited to launch coming soon?
I'm working on some around internal linking and keyword planning, like keyword identification. And I'm working on some around content quality. I'm also building some GPTs, which is something that I've only made a couple GPTs. So I'm going to try and make a whole bunch of GPTs just because they're easy to use. Like you can just pull them up and chat.
Right. Okay, Jonathan. I think we have covered a lot of ground from your early days in SEO to, of course, advanced AI-driven strategies, which you told, and the tools which you said. Thank you very much for sharing your valuable insights. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Before we wrap up, are there any key takeaways or final pieces of advice you'd like to leave our audience with, especially those trying to AI, especially people who are looking to work with AI and SEO and who are trying to join both?
Yeah, probably the biggest key takeaway is to just learn. Like SEO is an always learning kind of industry. Like you have to stay learning every day. I've been at it since like 2012, and I still learn new things every day. And I try to be like a little bit better than I was the day before or the week before or the month
Right.
before.
Right.
And I don't think that process stops. Like you have to keep learning no matter what.
Okay. So do you have any favorite books which you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Favorite books? I wouldn't say books in terms of SEO learning, but probably the best place to learn is YouTube, because there's so many like good tutorials on how to do things, and it's kind of easier. For me, I'm not much of like a learn through pages type learner. I learn more like interactively. So like somebody sharing their screen, recording a video, talking, and like showing me how to actually do something. I find that way more helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's the easiest way to go. You can play it numerous times with no issues, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, for before we end, for our listeners who want to deep dive into your teaching or connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and learn more about your work, including the AI SEO Academy?
Probably the best way is just to find me on LinkedIn. Like just search my name. I'm one of the only Jonathan Boshoffs out there. And then connect with me, and then you'll be able to keep in touch with all the crazy tools I put out there.
Yeah, and the crazy updates you come up with those cold tools. Most of the time I get FOMO, so I just want to try all of them. I actually remember taking subscription of Monolith to try some of them, and I found them very cool. That's where I found that these are easier ways to do things.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jonathan, for joining us today on Agency Insider. It's been an insightful conversation, and I'm sure our audience has gained a valuable knowledge. To our listeners, thank you for tuning. Be sure to subscribe for more insights from industry experts. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries and thriving in the digital marketing world, or rather to say AI world, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
Thanks for having me, Nepal.